Ladies and gentlemen, we're approaching the second half of the season. Actually, we are at the second half of the season. 5 teams look like they're in prime position to make a run for the Super Bowl, while the rest of the team will be looking on. Who are those 5 teams? Who are the 27 teams looking on? What's going on with Dez Bryant and the Giants, the Jets, and for that matter, the Bills in upstate New York and everything else in between? Welcome to Week 10 of the Blitz Zone. Hi, everybody. My name is Eric Rosen, and I'm coming to you live from the studios of CTV in Staten Island, New York. And with me tonight, Mr. James Sportsman Hickson for the second straight week.
Yep, it's great to see you again, Eric. Welcome back.
Oh, thank you. I love being here. And as you see, a third table, chairs right here. Not table, chair. But nonetheless, the person who's going to be joining us is Corey Valdez. He is on his way to the studio, so he'll be joining us any minute. But for the time being, it's just the two of us right now.
Yes, sir.
And we got a lot to discuss, including the state of the season right now. We're entering week 10. This is a very important part of this season. We're in the second half. So, to you, Jamie, what teams look like they're emerging as the contenders?
Well, first there's the obvious. It's the Patriots. The second one is a team that could potentially be a real power player in the NFC within the next 3 or 4 years, and that's the Rams. They're really, really strong at quarterback and at running back, and now that they have Brandon Cooks in the slot, Goff now has one of many guys that he can get the ball to, and he also has the luxury of a really, really strong defense. The third team to watch for is also out of the NFC, and that's New Orleans. Last week, the Saints made a statement against a Rams team that was undefeated, and for a time, it looked like the Saints had really put their stamp on this game, but then the Rams showed why they are the cream of the crop in the NFC, rallying to tie the game. But then the Saints showed, you know what? Maybe they should be the ones counted on to be a Super Bowl contender. Other than that, I would not count out Green Bay. I would not count out Pittsburgh, especially after last night when they put the beat down on the Panthers. Those are 5 really good teams. Well, 3 great teams and 2 really good ones that I would not overlook going into the second half of the year.
I think also another team that we need to add, the Kansas City Chiefs, to the conversation. Look at what Patrick Mahomes has done in 8 straight weeks. He's thrown 300 yards. He's had at least 3 touchdown passes.
I'm so curious to see how this kid is going to do in a really, really, really big spot in January, because right now, I don't see any weaknesses in this kid whatsoever. He is confident. He's ballsy. Nothing phases him at all. He sees the field really, really well, and it's obvious that he's got the athletic ability and pedigree to lead the Chiefs a long way, because as we all know, he's the son of a former athlete, namely an ex-Met, Pat Mahomes Sr. So there's going to come a time when other teams are really going to have to game plan against this kid, because he is the one that's making the Chiefs ready to go. I would even add the Los Angeles Chargers into the mix as well. Phillip Rivers has found the fountain of youth all of a sudden.
Yeah, he's thrown only 3 picks on the year, and he came up with a big victory on the road against the Seahawks this past week. A very tough environment nonetheless, but the Seahawks nearly came back in the game. Even after that pick 6 that Desmond King got off Wilson, he gets a pass to Vinette, but then on the last possession of the game, on untimed down, which unfortunately should have been a 1-yarder, but the fact that the Seahawks had a 5-yard false start penalty and moved them from the 1 to the 6, so Wilson had to improvise, try to get a pass to the middle to Moore. Fortunately, it was tipped by Jaleel Adele of the Chargers defense, and Moore wasn't able to get the completion. So, therefore, the Chargers came out with a big victory. They were 1-2 to start the year. They've now reeled off 5 consecutive victories. And let's not forget the fact that they've played most of the year defensively without Joey Bosa.
Yeah.
It's been Melvin Ingram and the rest of the defense. But also, Philip Rivers has had great support from guys like Tyrell Williams and Melvin Gordon.
Yeah.
And even Mike Williams as well, another receiver right there, and Keenan Allen.
Yep.
So he does have players to throw to as well. I would say they could possibly challenge the Chiefs in the AFC West.
They can definitely challenge the Chiefs in the AFC West. In fact, don't they have at least one more meeting with each other the second half of the year? That's going to be epic to decide that Western Division this season.
You want to talk about epic? Next week when we do our show, we're going to talk about the epic matchup between what could be the two Super Bowl teams. You know, the Rams and the Chiefs at the Estadio Azteca next Monday night.
Yeah, there was a time when Chiefs versus Rams was for bragging rights in the state of Missouri. Now that the Rams are back in Los Angeles, probably where they belong because that's where most of their history is, the fact that the game is going to be played in Estadio Azteca means that the Rams are a little bit closer to home this time. But now we're going to see how Patrick Mahomes Jr. does against a really stout defense.
But you better not overlook the team they're playing this week. They're playing the Cardinals. They're actually a 16.5-point favorite. But if my memory serves me correct, the Vikings were a 16.5-point favorite earlier in the year against the Bills, and they got nearly shut out.
Yeah.
So, you know what? If I'm the Chiefs this week, I would not overlook the Cardinals. Definitely keep your eye on the Cardinals this week. You're eyeing the prize to get a victory at home. And then when the game is all said and done and you get the victory, then look to the Rams. Don't overlook the Cardinals because a lot of folks there are some folks out there that think that this is a potential trap game.
Yeah. When it comes to teams like Arizona, you can't just try to show up and assume that you're going to win the game. These guys are playing with house money, are the Arizona Cardinals. So they're going to go out there and try to prove that they're just as worthy of being on the field as the Chiefs are.
And the only two wins that the Cardinals have had against the 49ers. It's unfortunate for them they can't play all 16 games against the 49ers, but that's not how the NFL works. Speaking of the Niners, who would have thought a kid out of Southern Miss, Nick Mullins, would come out guns blazing, wrong choice words, I'm sorry.
Hey, let me put it this way. Who saw that kid
sorry, folks.
make his way to the field and just dominate the way he did against the Raiders that night? I mean, he was so impressive that he drew a phone call from Brett Favre, a fellow Golden Eagle, as if the Giants did not have enough problems to worry about. They have to face this kid and the rest of the 49ers on Monday night.
Yeah, Nick Mullins really had one of the best coming out parties for a new start, for a guy making his NFL debut with a near perfect passer rating, and then again it was against the Raiders and win 34-3. Now he's got the Giants coming up on Monday night. You know, this is the second consecutive primetime game for this kid already in his very young NFL career against another mediocre team, nonetheless, too.
Yeah.
So he's so far facing two teams that are likely fighting for the number one overall draft pick. If anybody needs it, it's these two teams that need that number one.
The question is, who needs it more? Is it the Giants? Is it the Cardinals? Is it the 49ers? Is it the Bills?
The Browns?
Is it the Cleveland Browns? Is it somebody else?
You know, that's the thing. The Browns this year, we already know they let go of Hugh Jackson and Todd Haley because they had such a loving relationship.
Oh, brother.
I mean, they were just such best friends. No, they were. They couldn't stand the sight of each other.
Not even close.
In fact, Mayfield wasn't shedding a tear when either one got fired. So
he just got here and he's already criticizing the head coach when he's gone. Speaking of head coaches, I already know that there's one guy who's shown some real interest in the Browns' job. When was the last time you heard me say that? A head coach without a job is interested in the Browns' job.
Is he drinking?
No, but he is well known for wearing his famous Kangols on the sidelines. It's Bruce Arians.
Well, he's right now with Fox calling games and all that.
That's right.
But, then again, this was the same guy. Oh, I think we have somebody here, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I think that's him. Come on in, man. It's the
It's the mystery third man of the show.
come on in, sir.
The next, another myth and legend, my good friend.
Good
Mr.
to see
Corey
you. How are you?
Corey, this is Jamie. Jamie, Corey, we're just doing an on-air greeting.
Nice.
Very
Or
nice.
meeting. So we were just talking about the state of the season and the teams that are really showing us who are the contenders, separating from the pretenders.
Oh, yes. I actually like the Pittsburgh beatdown that went on last night. It
Yeah.
lets you know that, hey, Le'Veon Bell's gone. We moved on. And I think even him being in Pittsburgh is actually a distraction. The fact that he actually went to the city, even though they're moving on with Connors and rocking and rolling.
And James Conner had a really good game last night, which begs the question, is it that Le'Veon Bell was that great, or was the Steelers' offensive line that dominant?
I think it was a combination of the O-line, especially David DeCastro, who's probably one of the best offensive linemen in the league, who last night got into a heated incident with Eric Reed. But you got to give the reason why he did, because Eric Reed made that vicious hit on Roethlisberger on that 18-yard run in the third quarter. But at the same time, when you are, as a quarterback, make that run, you're taking a big risk. Getting possibly concussed and all that. Thankfully, nothing happened to Roth in terms of that. In fact, he buried the hatchet with Reed when DeCastro wanted to take Reed's head off. And in fact, did you see Reed just go over and say, "Hey, buddy,
Let's hash this out.
let's handshake."
Yeah.
And then I'm getting ejected. That's just so much fun right there. But Connor, honestly, is the answer to the question. No, the Steelers don't need Le'Veon Bell now. In fact, I'm hearing potential Bell coming back, but if I'm Bell, honestly, just chalk it up. Stay home for the rest of the year and go somewhere new. I think he needs a fresh start.
Not only that, but James Conner is a University of Pittsburgh product, and naturally he's going to endear himself to the football fan base, the rowdy football fan base that's in Western Pennsylvania. So naturally, he's going to have himself a good game. He proved himself with the Panthers. Now he's proving himself with the Steelers.
Hometown product. You got to love that.
Definitely.
Crowds love it. Fans love it. Oh, Eric.
Oh, no, I'm sorry. You know what? Let's go into some Week 9 recapping, because this was a crazy week. Monday night, Dallas. Tennessee comes in, and all of a sudden Mariota starts the game with a couple of fumbles. So, of course, they're down 7-0. But then Dallas makes several mistakes themselves, and Mariota comes up with 3 total touchdowns, 2 through the pass, 1 on a run. But you know what was great? Amari Cooper's Dallas debut. He did get a touchdown catch.
Right away, too. That was fast. It was a quick strike. I felt like I blinked my eye, and next thing you know it, the man's catching a touchdown.
And I think it was a good move because they needed somebody to get for Dallas. But honestly, they still ended up losing 28-14 to the Titans. And Mike Vrabel's team right now is putting themselves in the race for the AFC South. Even though you have a hot Texans team that's reeled off 6 consecutive victories.
Mm-hmm.
But talk about a hot game, Rams-Saints.
The second best game of the entire Sunday. And as it turns out, not only did the Saints have a really good recovery after nearly blowing a double-digit lead, they already showed that they are in prime position to win a Super Bowl right now.
Mike Thomas, 211 receiving yards on 11 catches, including the 72-yarder that he caught from Breeze.
Yes.
But my favorite was when the Rams are down by 21 points, they came back reeling off 21 consecutive points, including the 41-yard to Cooper Kupp on that draw play, throws to the left side. And, Cooper Kupp is just that elusive a guy. He comes from a good stock. His grandfather was a player. So right there, he's got those genes in him. And Todd Gurley this year, the Gurley man, is having 15 total touchdowns.
Well,
It's a freight train. You just got to jump on board. That man's running for gold.
yeah, he's far from a girly man, the way you put it, Eric. I mean, this kid is an absolute beast whenever he takes the field. And every time He and Jared Goff make such a great two-man combo. I would certainly hope that Goff would continue to ride this thing out for the rest of the way because he's got a really good thing going with Gurley and also with his receiving core.
I'm sorry.
And also in that game, just FYI, just came over the hot press that homeboy might have hurt his Achilles tendon.
He did.
Bryant.
Des Bryant did.
That was huge because I was like, oh, that might really open it up. He'll probably be on that slot or even the fourth. He's dealing with the third and fourth corner.
Yeah.
Des might actually get a little resurgence, get maybe a touchdown here or there, and start building. And that got shut down real quick.
Mm-hmm.
And the timeline's crazy. He works out for the team impressively on Tuesday. He signs with them on Wednesday. They announce it on Thursday. He tears his Achilles tendon on Friday.
Today.
I've never seen such a 4-day period in my life that consisted of all these things happening. And for him, who hasn't taken a snap in over a year, was looking forward to actually being on the field and to have that taken away from you. That's, I can't imagine what he's going through.
Heartbreaking.
I wonder if he develops this injury if he had played a whole season as opposed to sitting out the first half of the season.
I think he was working out but his personality is what turned teams off. Because if it not been for his personality, teams would have been jumping at him before the season began.
Yeah, but I also felt like he was having a hard time getting the separation like he normally would in the past year or two. I felt like he was so dynamic, and then I felt like he was starting to trail off. So that was another thing that I was also worried about is just rust, even though. But I was hoping to see him get like a touchdown or two and some phenomenal catches because the man did have hands.
Oh, he does. Hopefully, let's see if he'll come back. Now, in the Emerald City, Seahawks are at home visiting the hot LA Chargers. I mean, razor hot. Philip Rivers having a year where he's usually on his back 30 times a year. This time, that's not even the case. And he's only thrown 3 picks. And he's got good Melvin Gordon on working for him. Now, this game right here, Desmond King makes the big pick six off Russell Wilson. It's 25-10. You think the Seahawks are done. But then Wilson rips off a touchdown to Nick Vannett. They are able to force the Chargers into a punt. Seahawks get the ball back. And Russell Wilson, when he gets the ball back with just a few minutes to go, he's able to make magic. He nearly gets them down the field, especially with a couple roughing the passer penalties helping him. And a pass interference gets them to the 1 on an untimed down. Unfortunately, one of the teammates caused a 5-yard false start, so they have to go to the 6. Gets the ball, snapped him. He looks in the middle for Moore. Jaleel Adele of the Chargers tips the ball, basically causing Moore not to be able to catch it. Yep. Game, set, match. Chargers win 25-17.
It just goes to show you how gritty the Chargers are as a team. I mean, they'll win games anyway. They'll win it with the pass. They'll win it with defense. This game was won on their defense. And just to give you an idea, the Chargers have, this past game, they were in a situation that they have not been able to have on their side at home this season. And that's a really hostile crowd. The Chargers have to play in the 25,000-seat soccer stadium that's in Carson, California. And I just found out they signed a 20-year lease to play their home games in L.A.
At Inglewood, that's right. What used to be the former dog track. Or horse
So they're going to share that stadium with the Rams for 20 years. I wonder how the fan base is going to be in Inglewood now that they're going to play in what could be a 100,000-seat stadium.
The city of angels, man, they do have a couple of angels in that city.
Yeah, it's funny that they're going to be sharing that, and then you're going to take the Raiders and push them out to Las Vegas. I wasn't a big fan of that.
I was not happy with that at all. They really stabbed the people in Oakland in the back.
Yeah, I felt like the NFL knew that the market share, the Raiders had such a strong fan base that even if they moved them into Vegas, you would have people who would jump in the car and drive that 2-hour, maybe hour-and-a-half ride, rock out for their team, and then have L.A. split down the middle between either the Chargers or the Rams.
Yep.
And it's tough because L.A. is a big, huge sports town. And they're basically ripping out a team that loves it there, and the fans love it. They're probably one of the craziest fans in the whole league. And yet they're going to have to travel now to Vegas, and then the market share now goes to these two teams who are both struggling in their original environments.
It took 15 years for LA to finally have a team, and you start out with the Chargers, or you start out with the Rams, and then you bring the Chargers. The Chargers should have stayed in San Diego. I really feel bad for the people of SD. I feel bad for the St. Louis fans, but after all, the Rams are LA.
Well, the only reason why this happened is because of the Spanos family. The Spanos family is completely vindictive and very, very money hungry when it comes to trying to get a stadium. They've been trying to get a stadium in San Diego for years. Yet the city refused to negotiate in good faith, not even pay for it. They refused to negotiate even so much as in good faith with the franchise.
And the people actually were given a referendum to vote on raising hotel occupancy taxes to get this new stadium, and they said no.
Yep.
And they need a new convention center, because you ever go to Comic-Con there, that is an outdated convention center, and they need improvements there as well, along with new. So anyway, Packers, Patriots, basically it was 17-all up until the Aaron Jones fumble that changed the game, and then Edelman gets a 37-yard catch run. White gets the 1-yard run. And then the big one, Josh Gordon just breaking free for a 55-yard down the left sideline. No issues. 31-17 over the Packs. Second time they beat them in 3 years.
Yes.
It's a real shame that these teams don't play each other more often. From what I understand, this is only the second meeting between the two franchises ever?
Not all ever, but since 2014 when they were in Green Bay and the Patriots won there. It's like watching Tyson Holyfield when you're thinking of Rodgers and Brady.
Yeah, a lot of bombs being thrown. You actually expect a high offense, high defense. A lot of both teams trying to outsmart each other. And I'm telling you, Team Belichick, as much as I can't stand the guy just pulls out miracles year after year, gets under the salary cap, gets rid of guys, and brings guys in.
He always comes up with a game plan to
Most
counter
undisputed
against the
guy.
best of the best in this league.
You know, Josh Gordon, this was a guy who was a car salesman at one point when he was not even playing for the Browns. And this was a guy who's had more suspensions than starts, and yet he's had 32 receptions since coming on board. So right there, I think Belichick has had a positive influence on him because he's no nonsense.
We certainly hope so, because after all the trouble that he's caused, Gordon needed, quite frankly, needed this second, third, fourth, or whatever number chance that he's gotten, and he's proved himself well so far.
All right, I'm going to rip off some recaps quickly. The Vikings had a record 10 sacks.
10 sacks.
Which I couldn't believe against the Lions. Daniel Hunter had not only 3.5 of those sacks, he had a fumble 6 in the fourth quarter and ended up beating the Lions 24-9. And you have to give it up to the rest of the team. Even though Adam Thielen, unfortunately, it was Darius Slay nearly had an interception that could have changed the game. But the Vikings were able to get that victory, much needed, by the way.
Well, you also have to consider who the Vikings' opponent was. It was the Lions' offensive line, which has had major problems this season.
But yet they are about to have the first 1,000-yard rusher since Reggie Bush in 2013. So isn't that something?
Mm-hmm.
Falcons go into Washington, and this time the defense actually is defensive.
They showed up.
They reduced the Redskins to 14 points. They took out a lot of the offensive line of the Redskins, including Brandon Scherf, done for the year with a torn pectoral. And so is Trent Williams with a dislocated right thumb. And LaVille has a left knee torn ACL, done for the year as well. They just signed 3 guys off the street on their offensive line. And Julio Jones, for the first time since last year, had a touchdown catch. Hallelujah. 38-14 Falcons win.
Good to see the Falcons back on track a little bit after slumping the first 5 weeks of the season.
Roethlisberger is able to get a punt for the first time in his career, on top of the fact that he runs for football, gets another pass to AB. They beat the Ravens 23-16, avenging week 2.
That's always a bitter rivalry between those two franchises, and once again, Big Ben comes up big.
Oh, yes.
The Bears humiliate the Bills in did I almost do like a Freudian slip right there? The Bears yet had 190 total yards, and it was a Eddie Jackson 65-yard fumble 6 and a Leonard Floyd tipped pass off of Zay Jones. Actually, yeah, off of Zay Jones for 19 yards. That should not even counted, honestly. And they win 41-9, the Bears.
Sometimes it's better to be lucky than good.
You could say that again, but in this case,
Nathan.
all Bears defense on this one.
And 2 words, Nathan Peterman.
Again, why does this kid have a job? He is not NFL quarterback material.
In 132 career snaps, and that's including the playoffs, you know how many interceptions he's thrown? 13.
13 picks and 132 snaps. This is exactly why you just don't take a chance on a kid whose numbers have been rather
Dismal.
unproven when you think about it in the college game. I mean, this is a kid who got redshirted at Tennessee for a year, then played very sparingly the other 2 years that he was there. Then after graduating early,
Goes to Pittsburgh.
goes to the University of Pittsburgh to study for his master's. I mean, he puts up some decent numbers, but he was barely a 55% passer in his 2 years at Pitt. And then all of a sudden, he winds up getting drafted by the Bills. I just don't get it. I don't know who was the scout that decided to take a chance on this kid, but quite frankly, he should be fired.
Should Bills fans be worried?
They're already
They've been
worried.
They've been worried for years now. This is something that's almost been like a revolving door of just a punchline. It's just tough.
What's really saddening, they made the playoffs last year. They ended the 17-year drought, which was the longest in North American professional sports. Then this year, they're 2-7. It's the worst start they've had since 2010. I don't know who's writing the script for this team, but man, this is. And Terrell Pryor, honestly, he complained about how the Jets underused him. Well, you just showed why they underused you for a reason. Buccaneers go and play the Panthers. And I have to say this. The Buccaneers, Dirk Cutter is going to be gone this year. Fitzmagic tries every which way to get his team back from a deficit, even though he caused part of it.
Part of it with the picks.
Yep. And 3 and outs. 3 and outs in the game that don't help you as well. You're reduced to 82 rushing yards. Your rushing performance they're the worst in the league in terms of total rush yards per game. But Cam Newton, of course, when you got a guy like Christian McCaffrey who's had 5 touchdowns, including last night 3, who's dangerous in open space, well, they win 42-28.
Problem with
Although in this case, it was the Buccaneers' dreadful defense that should be at fault here, because being burned for 42 points and about 400 yards in total offense is just inexcusable.
And you were about to.
Yeah, I'm just saying half the time you see Tampa Bay, they always get themselves backed in a corner. They're down by 2 touchdowns. All of a sudden, they have to abandon the running game, and it becomes the gunslinger show. And once it becomes a gunslinger show, he keeps wanting to throw those picks. You're already in trouble before you even get into the fourth quarter.
And that's the thing, is the magic dissipating?
The magic was never there.
But you have to give it. He's thrown at least 5 75-yard plus passes, which is unbelievable. Especially
No one is questioning his talent. The talent is there. I mean, he's had his days like this past weekend where he threw 4 scores. It's just his field vision stinks. His field vision stinks. He's not very athletic. His accuracy is like all over the place.
Except 2015 when he was with the Jets. That was maybe, statistically, that was his best year with the Jets.
Yeah.
I think that might have been his best year as an NFL player.
But then again, because he threw 31 passes, you had 2 1,000-yard receivers. You had a running back you had everything in place. Had he not thrown those 3 fourth-quarter interceptions, Week 17 against the Bills, they could have actually made a playoff run that year.
And he could have made the playoffs for the first time in his entire career. He has still not played a playoff game yet, and he's in his 14th season.
Neither is Brandon Marshall. Yeah.
There are just certain guys who don't have any luck at all. If it weren't for bad luck, they would not have any luck at all.
Speaking of bad luck, the Cleveland Browns, they fired their head coach.
Hugh Jackman.
Yeah,
Hugh Jackson.
Yeah. Hugh Jackman would be a better coach than Hugh Jackson on any day.
And Hugh Jackman doesn't know anything about American football.
But still, he'd probably be a much better person to have on the team than Hugh Jackson and Todd Haley, the two combustible elements who basically made the locker room a living nightmare. You bring in Greg Williams, who, by the way, is the guy who gave us Bounty Gate with the Saints, and he's looking like the nice guy in all this, and he's the new interim head coach. They still end up losing 37-21 because, well, you got Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs. It's pick your poison with the Chiefs.
It's like a high-octane offense. You can't even shut down one end or one aspect. They seem to spread the ball around, and if you stop the run, they kill you in the air. You push in the air, boom, Hunt goes wild.
And when your secondary loses 3 players, when you have a concussed E.J. Gaines, when Denzel Ward has a hip injury, which may even take him out this week, their secondary is depleted as it is. So that's easy pickings for any quarterback. When you have a secondary that is that depleted, pick your poison. Pick who you want to throw to.
And that highly touted matchup between